All right, let's jump into this deep dive. Today we're going head first into a self-help book. That's definitely not your typical fluffy stuff. We're talking no money, no job, no problems. Subtitle, Be Happy or Die, Trying Fuck Hard Times. Yeah, you heard that right. The author who calls himself Ya Boy Rick doesn't hold back.
It's definitely a unique title, that's for sure. But hey, it grabs your attention.
Grabs it and maybe shakes it a little bit. I mean, it's pretty clear from the get-go. This is for someone looking for straight talk, no sugarcoating when it comes to self-improvement. And I know that's what a lot of our listeners are all about.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are tired of the same old, you know, positive affirmations and all that. Sometimes you need a little kick in the pants.
Exactly. And Ya Boy Rick seems more than happy to deliver that kick.
It's interesting, though, how he, even in the title, kind of acknowledges the struggles. Like, he's not shying away from the fact that, yeah, people have money problems, job problems, relationship problems,
Yeah.
but he's not letting you wallow in it. It's like he's saying, okay, you're in a mess. Now what are you going to do about it?
That universe ain't your sugar daddy line really got me. Like, oof, truth bomb right there.
Yeah, that one kind of hits you right between the eyes.
It's harsh, but it's also kind of freeing in a way, you know? Like, okay, no one's coming to rescue me. Time to figure this out myself.
I think that's the whole point he's trying to make, right? Like taking ownership of your own happiness.
Totally. But I'm curious, how does he balance that tough love with actual, like, guidance? Does he just yell at you to be happy, or is there some sort of method to this madness?
That's where his whole action over complaining thing comes in.
Okay, tell me more about that.
He hates complaining. Calls it verbal diarrhea, which
Oh, that's a good one.
pretty accurate, right?
Hmm.
But he doesn't just tell you to stop whining. He actually gives you a way to like turn those complaints into action steps.
So it's not just about shutting up, it's about doing something.
Right, exactly. So like instead of saying, ugh, I'm broke, he'd be like, okay, what can you do today to make $5? Anything. It's about shifting that mindset from victim to like proactive problem solver.
Okay, so less about positive thinking, more about positive doing. I
Yeah.
like that. That resonates with me more than just trying to like force myself to be happy.
Yeah, because action creates momentum, you know?
Right, right.
And momentum can lead to positive change.
But let's be real, sometimes even taking action can feel overwhelming, especially when life keeps throwing curveballs left and right.
Absolutely. And that's actually where Yabi Rick brings in a surprising tool, gratitude.
Gratitude. Now, I know that can sound kind of cheesy, like a lot of self-help stuff.
Yeah, it gets thrown around a lot, right?
Yeah.
But he approaches it from like a neuroscience angle,
Oh, interesting.
talking about how it literally rewires your brain for positivity. It's not
Mm.
just like some fluffy feel-good thing. It's an actual strategy.
So he's backing it up with science.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some of the practices he recommends?
Well, one that really stood out to me was this morning gratitude ritual. Basically, you list 3 things you're grateful for first thing in the morning.
Okay, sounds simple enough, but does he say why that's so important?
He says consistency is key. Like it's building a muscle. You know, the more you practice focusing on the positive, the easier it becomes.
Makes sense.
And that ties back into his whole belief that happiness is an inside job.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. Like, it's not just random tips, it's like there's an actual philosophy here.
Yeah, there's definitely a method to his madness, even if it's presented in a pretty unconventional way.
Okay, this is all making sense so far, but what about, like, the external stuff? What about those people who just, suck the life out of you?
Oh, he has plenty to say about that.
Because we all have those people in our lives, right?
Oh, yeah. He calls them energy vampires.
Energy vampires, I love that.
Right. And drama queens and all sorts of other colorful names.
Okay, so he's naming the beasts, but does he give you any, like, weapons to fight them off?
He does. He talks a lot about setting boundaries with toxic people, protecting your own energy.
Right, because you can't always just avoid them completely.
Exactly. Sometimes you got to work with them or their family or whatever.
Yeah, those are the tough ones.
So he gives you strategies for dealing with those situations without letting them drain you dry.
I'm really liking how he uses humor to address these kind of serious topics.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely not afraid to be funny, even when he's talking about tough stuff.
It makes it less intimidating and, honestly, more memorable.
Totally. But I do wonder, is there a risk that his humor could be, like, off-putting to some people?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he walks a fine line between being funny and maybe a little too harsh, right?
Right. I think that's a valid point. His style's definitely not for everyone.
Yeah, some people might be turned off by the strong language.
Exactly. He uses a lot of, crude language and doesn't shy away from controversial topics.
Right, right. But I think that's also what makes him so refreshing.
Yeah, he's not trying to please everybody.
He's just being himself.
Exactly. And that authenticity resonates with a lot of people,
Yeah.
People who are tired of the sugar-coated self-help stuff.
Right. They just want the truth, even if it's a little rough around the edges.
Exactly.
So we've got this get real attitude, then we've got the tools for taking action and cultivating a more positive mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those times when things really hit the fan, like rock bottom? What does he have to say about that?
This is where his rock bottom as a trampoline metaphor comes in.
Oh, I like that.
And honestly, I think it's one of the most powerful ideas in the whole book.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't see it as like the end.
Yeah.
It's more like a launching pad.
Oh, okay.
And he has this quote from Cat Williams, I think it is, where he says, "Some of y'all didn't hit rock bottom. You scraped it, cleaned it, and made a damn bed there."
Okay, that's hilarious and also kind of true.
Right. It's Yahboy Rick's way of saying, like, own your mess, learn from it, and use it to propel yourself forward.
I love that. Flipping the script, right?
Exactly.
But how does he suggest you actually do that? Like, it's one thing to say bounce back, but another to actually find the strength to climb out of that hole.
He talks about celebrating small wins.
Small wins, yeah.
Even when you're down, acknowledging those tiny victories can build momentum.
Okay, so like, what would be an example of a small win when you're at rock bottom?
Let's say you've been unemployed for months,
Right.
right? And you finally land an interview. That's a win.
Okay, yeah.
Celebrate that. It helps you shift your focus from what you lack to what you're gaining, even if it's just a tiny bit of progress.
I think that's so important because we often get fixated on that end goal, like the big dream, that we forget to appreciate the little steps along the way.
Totally. It's like we're waiting for permission to be happy instead of finding it in the process.
And that's where the hustle comes in, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, boy, Rick is all about the hustle.
Like work hard, no excuses.
Work hard, take responsibility, own your success.
I know you mentioned at the beginning that you wanted to, gain knowledge quickly, but he'd probably tell you there are no shortcuts.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
He'd be like, shortcuts are for losers or something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, true success, he'd argue, comes from consistent effort.
Day after day,
Day after day.
grind it out.
Grind it out.
No magic pill.
Nope. He even challenges readers to write down one thing they can do each day to improve their situation. Just one thing.
Okay, so that's a manageable action step.
Exactly.
I like that.
Make it small, but do it consistently.
So we've got action, action, action. That seems to be the core of his message.
Mm-hmm.
But does he address the mental and emotional side of things? Because sometimes it's not just about knowing what to do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about having the energy and motivation to actually do it.
Right. Yeah, boy, Rick has a whole chapter on happiness is an inside job.
Okay, so he's acknowledging that it's not all about external circumstances.
Right, like you can hustle all you want, but if you haven't done the inner work, you'll never be truly fulfilled.
Inner work, what does he mean by that?
Things like finding joy in the simple things, practicing gratitude.
Okay, so those mindset shifts we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And taking care of your mental and emotional well-being.
So he's got the practical steps, he's got the mindset, he's got the emotional well-being. What about relationships? Does he talk about how our connections with other people impact our growth?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, boy, Rick is really big on surrounding yourself with the right people.
Okay, makes sense.
He argues that your social circle can either lift you up or drag you down.
I mean, we all know that, right? But it's harder to put it into practice.
Right. And he doesn't sugarcoat it. He says you got to cut the dead weight in your life.
Dead weight. Ooh, that's harsh, but I get it.
Yeah. Those people who just drain your energy, hold you back, you got to let them go.
That's something I think a lot of people struggle with, letting go of relationships even when they're not good for them.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's tough, but he argues it's necessary for growth.
But does he give you any guidance on how to actually do that? Like, it's easy to say cut them off, but the reality is often much more complicated.
He gives some pretty practical advice on setting boundaries.
Boundaries, okay.
Even with people you can't completely avoid. Like, let's say you have a toxic family member.
Ooh, yeah, those are the tough ones.
He'd say, limit your interactions, don't engage in their drama, protect your own peace of mind.
So it's about creating that distance, even if you can't completely cut them off.
Exactly. And he even gets specific about, like, romantic relationships,
Oh, interesting.
particularly for men,
Yeah.
being assertive, understanding what he calls the game of attraction.
Okay, so there's some gender-specific advice in there, too.
He has some chapters specifically for men, some for women, but a lot of the core principles apply to everyone.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because from what you've shared, it seems like a lot of his advice could resonate with anyone, regardless of gender.
Right? It's about taking ownership of your life, working hard, being positive, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's universal.
But he does acknowledge that men and women face unique challenges
Hmm.
and offers specific advice for navigating those.
Okay, I'm curious to hear more about that. Like, what kind of advice does he give specifically to women?
He encourages women to be discerning in their choices,
Discerning. Okay.
to know their worth and not settle for less than they deserve.
I love that.
And he also talks about the importance of building strong connections with other women,
Yeah, that's so crucial.
like creating a support system that lifts each other up.
Because sometimes the best advice comes from people who truly understand what you're going through.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the practical stuff, the mindset stuff, the relationship stuff. Does he ever go beyond that? Like, does he touch on anything related to spirituality?
He does, in his own way.
Okay, tell me more about that.
He doesn't preach any particular religion or dogma.
Right, right.
But he encourages readers to connect with their inner selves, explore what gives their lives meaning.
Okay, so it's more about personal exploration.
Exactly. He talks about meditation, spending time in nature, finding your own personal truth.
I like that. It's not about following a specific set of rules, but finding what resonates with you.
Exactly.
That's a refreshing perspective on spirituality.
And he ties that back into his whole self-improvement philosophy.
Oh, cool.
He believes that by connecting with that deeper part of ourselves, we can unlock our full potential.
So it's not just about achieving external success, it's about inner fulfillment as well.
Exactly. And it's not just about finding your spiritual side. He also encourages you to integrate your passions into your everyday life.
Okay, so bring that joy and purpose into everything you do.
Yes. Make it a part of who you are, not just something you do on the side.
I love that. So we've got action, gratitude, hustle, inner work, surrounding yourself with the right people, even tapping into your spiritual side.
A lot, right?
It's a lot, but it's all connected.
It all ties together.
It's like a whole system for self-improvement.
A Ya Boy Rick system for life.
Exactly. But does he address the fact that this is a journey, not a destination? Like, life's messy, we make mistakes, we stumble. How does he suggest navigating those inevitable setbacks?
He's very honest about the fact that there will be ups and downs.
Okay.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, but he emphasizes the importance of resilience,
Resilience, yeah.
learning from your failures,
Yeah.
and getting back up stronger.
So it's not about avoiding failure, it's about how you respond to it.
Exactly. And he even talks about self-compassion,
Self-compassion.
acknowledging that we're all human, we're all going to screw up sometimes, and that's okay.
That's such an important point because I think so much of self-help focuses on achieving this, idealized version of ourselves.
Right, you have to be perfect all the time.
Yeah, but the reality is we're all works in progress.
We're all messy, flawed human beings.
But embracing that imperfection is actually part of the journey. Okay, I love that. But with all this talk about hustling and self-reliance, does he ever acknowledge the importance of asking for help?
He does. In fact, he dedicates a whole chapter to building a support system,
Okay, good.
recognizing that you don't have to go it alone.
Because we all need help sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
It's not a weakness to ask for help.
He actually sees it as a strength.
Okay.
He encourages readers to find mentors, join communities, surround themselves with people who believe in them. It's a sign of, self-awareness, humility, being able to say, hey, I need a hand here.
That's powerful. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about Ya Boy Rick's, emphasis on action, gratitude, the hustle, inner work, surrounding yourself with good people, spirituality.
Yeah, he covers it all.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to kind of bring it back to the listener. What are some key takeaways that you can actually apply in your own life?
I think the biggest takeaway is you have the power to create the life you want.
Okay, so that sense of ownership.
Ownership, yeah. Yeah. Boy Rick might be blunt. He might be offensive at times.
Right.
But his message is ultimately about empowerment.
Empowerment, yeah.
He's saying, stop complaining, stop waiting for someone to save you, and start taking control.
Take control.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a call to action.
It's easy to get caught up in the blame game,
Right.
focusing on external circumstances, other people.
Right.
But like you said, it's really up to us to decide how we respond to those challenges,
Yeah.
what kind of life we want.
Exactly. And he's not saying it's going to be easy.
Right.
He's very upfront about the fact that life is going to throw curveballs. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to hustle.
Wrestle.
But he also believes that you have the strength and the resilience to overcome those
to
obstacles.
overcome those obstacles and to actually achieve your goals.
Exactly.
So combination of responsibility, putting in the work, and not being afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the mental emotional side of things? How does he address that? Self-care, finding joy. He emphasizes finding what truly makes you happy
Okay.
and incorporating that into your daily life.
Okay.
Whether it's spending time with loved ones,
Right.
pursuing a creative passion,
Right.
or just taking a few moments for yourself each day to relax and
Yeah.
recharge.
Right.
It's about making those things a priority,
Not an afterthought.
not an afterthought.
Because that's where burnout happens, I think. When
Exactly.
we're so focused on the doing, we forget about the being.
Yeah, you got to find that balance.
That balance between pushing yourself and giving yourself grace.
And that's where his emphasis on humor comes in too, you
Oh,
know?
yeah. He's always got a joke, even about the tough stuff.
Right, life doesn't have to be so serious all the time.
Yeah.
It's okay to laugh at yourself, find the absurdity in the everyday struggles,
Lighten the load.
lighten the load.
All right, so as we wrap up this exploration of Boy Rick's unconventional wisdom, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. If Boy Rick were your personal hype man, what would he be yelling at you right now?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think he'd be telling you to stop doubting yourself.
Get out there and make some shit happen.
Make some shit happen, all right?
He'd remind you that you're capable of more than you think,
Mm-hmm.
and that the only limits are the ones you set for yourself.
You set for yourself, that's good. So
Mhm.
step into your power, embrace your unique gifts, and create a life that is truly fulfilling.
Exactly. He'd be your biggest cheerleader,
Mm-hmm.
but he'd also be the first one to call you out on your BS.
Yeah, to push you.
To be your best self.
Your best self. So take that energy with you as you move forward on your journey. Embrace the chaos, find the humor in the struggle, and never be afraid to be your authentic, badass self. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this deep dive. Did anything resonate with you? Anything challenge your existing beliefs? Share your experiences with us, and let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep striving for greatness.
And remember, never be afraid to laugh at yourself along the way.